off your intro, please?
Sure, yeah. So hi, I'm Beth Murphy. I am at Amazon Music, where I head up global acquisition. So that includes basically everything that drives our top line numbers. And before that, I was at iHeartRadio as the SVP of marketing, and I was also the CMO of Deezer, a French music streaming service before that. So I've been in the music streaming space for quite a bit before a career in Silicon Valley in B2C.
And for clarifying purposes, Amazon Music, that I presume that's a pretty heavy like native app sort of situation, though. Do you have other client applications and streaming web stuff, or is it mostly like a mobile app deal?
Well, it's both voice. So voice is a really common use case through Alexa or smart speakers in the home, in addition to mobile first and then web. So it's pretty cross-platform. You can also listen to it across a lot of devices. Similar to most music streaming services, it's integrated in a lot of hardware devices, whether it's like your Roku device or Fire TV. So you can listen to Amazon Music and lots of other places as well.
Okay. All right. Cool.
Hi, everyone.
I'm
Hi. VP of Marketing at Nurx, which is a digital healthcare company with about 250,000 patients across birth control, testing, and other services, and really focused on building the brand, driving growth, creating a next generation healthcare company. And I'm kind of a digital native. My background started in more traditional brands, leading digital like La Quinta hotels. Then moved on to Shutterfly, Kabbage, and was most recently running marketing at IfOnly, which was a marketplace for experiences that recently became MasterCard Priceless Cities. So a lot of acquisition background, and now really trying to figure out how we bring telemedicine to the forefront, which, as you could imagine, has been moved forward swiftly by COVID.
And in your case, I presume that it's more of a mobile web, Facebook web, not so much native app, sort of both acquisition and just general experience, or is that a bad assumption?
It's a little bit of both. So pre-COVID, our traffic was around above 90% just mobile web. And then people will use our mobile app for things like checking their delivery status and things like that. Post-COVID, we've moved more to around 75–80% mobile web, and then desktop has increased quite a bit.
Got it. But you don't acquire through the app typically. It's more of a retentive.
We do depending on the acquisition channel. So we really test both. With something like Snapchat, it actually has driven better CACs when we ask people to get the app first. But we really try to test both and optimize against that.
Interesting. Yeah, you don't hear that too often for what's traditionally, D2C. That's a rarity. Okay. All right. Well, you sort of alluded to this. Let's start with, I think it's like the classic COVID question, which is like, what's changed? So like, to the extent you're doing media buying, how have CPMs changed? Have you noticed any particular channel specific improvements, or like I don't know, lower conversion rates, any kind of like high level observations on the acquisition side? We'll start there. Maybe Beth, you want to answer that?
Sure. Yeah, I mean, so streaming media services generally are doing very well. Kind of in the COVID era, music in particular, people are using music as a source of solace and community. It's really relevant, but the consumption patterns have been changing. So because less people are commuting, the mobile consumption is down, but more people are in the home, so they're listening on their smart speakers. So we're seeing this shift in where people are both consuming music. The time of day tends to be pretty similar. People tend to retain the same habits, even though they're not commuting. In terms of the acquisition mix, obviously CPMs are down quite a bit because there's other parts of the economy that are no longer aggressively advertising. So we're seeing, depending on the channel, CPMs decline quite substantially. And for us, we are fortunate enough to be able to lean in there. So that's been pretty interesting. And there's CPMs differ by channel. In terms of just general customer health, it's definitely something that we're watching, and to date we haven't seen any decrease in the health of our different cohorts and customers that are coming in. So it's a great, we're in a really great position in the sense that we're a service that has a lot of need and demand and relevancy, and we also have a higher share of voice as maybe traditional retail shrinks across numerous channels, whether it's email or kind of more traditional organic channels as well as paid.
And is it a trial to paid model across all platforms, or does it depend based on how you come in?
I mean, some people, a lot of our consumers just sign up right away, but Amazon's a little bit different. If you're an Amazon Prime user, you get Amazon Prime for free. So it's basically like it's not quite fully featured like Amazon Music Unlimited is, but it's ad-free. You can play, you can create playlists. It's just a smaller catalog. And then we also have a free funnel, both on voice as well as on the mobile channel. So we have people entering through lots of different funnels. But what's interesting is a lot of people just sign up right away.
And you haven't, across those funnels, there hasn't been like a precipitous conversion rate decrease. I've seen from some advertisers saying, oh, CPMs are low, but my conversion rate's down in half. So effectively, I'm still, my effective CPA is up. It sounds like that's not the case here.
Right. No, it's not. I mean, we're definitely leaning into free as a benefit and leaning into promotions during this time. We feel that's better and more on brand. So, and you'll see other, SPOD, like the whole streaming space is really like, how can we give consumers more value during this time? And so Amazon Music has heavily leaned into emphasizing free, but that doesn't mean that our numbers look different in terms of conversion. So that's been an interesting dichotomy that we just really haven't seen a decrease in the demand for paid streaming as well.
That's great. All things considered. Okay, and Katelyn, in the D2C world, how have you guys, again, I mean, the classic, our CPMs lower question, that's a good one. But also, what, have you seen any particular channel mix changes or maybe like the mobile desktop split thing you referenced? I don't know if that's a function of the pandemic.
Yeah, I mean, I would echo a lot of the things that were already said. One thing that we're certainly seeing is, given the fact that many more people are watching TV and watching live TV in particular, that this is a really good time to try TV and try OTT if you haven't. And we're seeing tremendously higher conversion rates, given that a lot more of our traffic is actually coming from TV, and people are a little bit more active in taking that action once they see a spot and then come visit Nurx. We're also seeing just really great conversion across Facebook. So we've actually, we were pretty well diversified, but now we're kind of stepping back from that just a little bit, given that CPMs are so strong, really trying to, if you can front load your business, given that uncertainty post-COVID also exists, that is really a great thing to do, especially for a subscription-based business. For us, being in healthcare, we really can't talk about or promote. There's not a lot there that's free. So we've heavily focused on content, just given that people are, everyone's in the same boat right now. People are completely inundated with the press. They don't know what to believe. They don't know where they should take their advice from. They're really also looking for a chance to kind of escape as it relates to content being delivered. So we've been focusing pretty heavily, more than before, on helping, not only demystify what's going on, but helping people, stay healthy and safe while they're at home.
And does that manifest itself in like messaging changes in your ads and different emails and stuff like that? Or like practically, what does that mean?
Yeah, it's really a lot more content. So we've done, roundup lists of great places to get mental health resources, different types of workouts that you could look at, demystifying. So there's a lot out there from a healthcare perspective on what types of medications you should or shouldn't take during coronavirus, given that some could cause you to be less or more immune to the virus. So we're using our providers, I would say, more than ever before to put that content out there. The other thing that I've seen that we didn't really see before is privacy is really a different thing because everyone's at home and everyone's working from home. So we typically include the names of our services in our subject lines, and that's a practice that we've always done and have never had any issue with. But now we're hearing from a lot of people, this subject line came across on Zoom, and we're having to really think about that and just adjust for that as well, given everyone's at home.
Got it. Okay, I got a few follow-up questions. So a lot of the discussion around CPM changes, even in the performance marketing ecosystem, like tend to center on Facebook. Have you seen similar like rate reductions in like your TV buying or other channels, or is it primarily a Facebook specific phenomenon? And actually, I'll extend that question. What about Google Ads? Someone asked in our little Q&A tool thing, like, have you seen an impact on your paid search? So next question is TV, search, anything else? We kind of know the Facebook answer. What about the rest?
Yeah,
it's everything. Yeah, go ahead.
Oh yeah, TV is down quite substantially. So I think generally it's across all mediums. I think someone mentioned the chat, like Facebook. I mean, I think that's where we've seen the biggest drop in what we do every day. But I think lots of companies are trying to cancel TV campaigns.
Yeah, particularly, presumably the less performance oriented advertisers, I'm guessing, especially.
Yeah, it's kind of the perfect storm in that regard, right? You have competitors pulling out. You have more inventory and impressions than ever before because everyone is watching TV. And so that coming together, and we've even seen the same thing on Google. I mean, it really is across the board.
Interesting. Okay. So let's a question we want to talk about is like around how you're managing your teams. I mean, be it that you're remote, is there any changes to your kind of how you're operating, practically speaking, or is it business as usual? I think especially interesting to me, at least, is like on the CRM side, like have you changed the cadence with which you're communicating with customers, or are the journeys more or less the same? Is everything kind of the same? So yeah, both I guess, management and maybe a focus on retention, anything of note.
So I can talk to some of the things that my team has been experiencing. I think Amazon was one of the first or earlier bigger companies to do work from home. So I think I'm starting month 3 of working from home. And I think feedback from the team is a lot of people feel like they're working more than they ever have because there's no longer drive-by conversations. People are no longer commuting. So I think a lot of feedback is like, how do we make this time less stressful for people when they might not have ideal work from home environments because their kids are home from school. So I think, in terms of how to, manage your team and keep folks happy, there's really sort of emphasizing that it's okay if you're not 100% productive, that you need time to recharge your batteries. We've also, like other teams have, connected socially with virtual happy hours and things that keep people feeling engaged in sort of non-business ways. And we've also introduced more mechanisms across the org to sort of keep people feeling like they're connected. So we have virtual coffee chats where we connect people with different people across the organization to meet. We have fireside chats with different leaders. So, you can have a Q&A session with different folks from different parts of the business. And we've been really trying to reinforce certain things, like we have no meeting Wednesdays. I encourage my team to block off parts of their calendar because some people are just getting these crazy calendars where they're blocked from 8 to 6 in half-hour meetings. So I think if anything, it's trying to keep people really sane and engaged and give them enough personal space to deal with the things they also need to deal with during this time as well.
I love no meeting Wednesdays. I might say that.
Have you made any, I don't know, structural changes to how your team is operating, or is it kind of functionally the same?
For me, it's functionally the same. I think I spend more time in one-on-ones just kind of personally catching up with people, because you don't do that anymore. So yeah. I would say it's becoming like, I think that's really nothing has changed. It's just that we're no longer as effective as we used to be, because you just don't have that energy. And I think some people are introverts and some people are extroverts, so they're motivated different ways. Like, I think a lot of introverts are like, this is great, I can get way more stuff done and I'm way more productive. And I think extroverts are like, hey, I'm having trouble staying energized and motivated throughout the day. And so it's kind of understanding, like, who on your team, what kind of keeps them energized and happy, and trying to tap into it. But at the same time, making sure that other things are optional, because people, like, sometimes people don't want to go to a virtual happy hour if they have kids and it's free time. Yeah. So I think it's also just being really cognizant of like the different types of people in the team and what they need, and making sure to remind folks that things are optional if you're trying to do things to create more of this like social environments in a virtual world, that it's also okay to opt out of them.
Yeah, that's a fair point. I have a team of 35, so I'm like the small boss, and some of the questions I'm getting are completely like normal humans would ask, like, let's have a virtual happy hour. Like, I'd really love to talk about feelings, and I'm just like, no, I don't want to. What are you talking about? It's great. Like, just go away. This is a dream. So yeah, you're totally right. Like, teach their own. So I'm like, all right, we're gonna do a virtual, trivia. Like, sounds like a nightmare to me, but let's do it. Yeah, all right, that's cool. So, Katelyn, I want to ask you more about content. So, okay, so you could, I think many of the viewers and attendees do lots of paid UA, like we've been talking about, but many don't. And content creation is actually one of those things that you could kind of do in almost any context. Mm-hmm. So for in your context, how do you think about content distribution? Like, are we literally talking about writing stuff and sending emails to the list? Is it about pushing it via social? Is it about maybe creating content and then that's what you push as the as the paid campaigns? Like, so like what is the type of content? Maybe live streaming stuff. I've seen some people doing that. Like, so what is the content that maybe you're doing more of? And critically, since this is a good growth topic, like, how is it actually disseminated? How is it distributed?
Yeah, we've tried to keep it pretty streamlined in terms of we have a somewhat small team. There's about 10 people on the team, and trying to ensure that we're getting out many pieces of content each week. So it's usually living on our blog. We then push it out on social, and we push it out through newsletters. We have been doing more newsletters for our individual segments that we have. But then we've also been doing things that are kind of one-offs, like your COVID-19 news of the week, or things that are, instead of a newsletter with lots of content, we might just push out one thing at a time. That's something that is, if it's like super timely, like early on we talked about, nobody wants to hear about this anymore, but early on we talked about, how to like keep your hands healthy because you're washing them so much. And one of the first articles we posted was just, what do you need to know about COVID-19? Now, as we've moved through, we've kind of seen the evolution of talking about things that we're doing more at home, all the way to, making sure that you're protected and why you might want to have emergency contraception on hand during this time. So it's really about, just like I said, kind of thinking about what's going on with people, taking in all of these things that are happening in the news, and also really working closely with our providers. That has been the most helpful thing during this time. So would just encourage everyone to get as close to the customer as possible right now, because that's where you'll really hear the questions that are being asked. So people are asking our providers all kinds of health questions. And we've seen that we've been able to take that and circle that back into our content. And generally, given the fact that, as I mentioned, we're doing a lot more TV and a lot more people are watching TV, more people are also active with us in particular on social media as a source of trusted content, because we kind of have the onboarding series from the first point at which you come on with Nurx. maybe after you've seen a TV ad or another ad. And then it's sort of a trusted point of content from there, which sort of like fuels social media and everything else as a bit of a flywheel. But yeah, it's really about getting creative and getting as close to the customer as possible right now.
Beth, to the extent, well, for I guess 2 questions. When you think about content distribution, is it primarily to existing customers? It sounds like that's mostly, Katelyn, where most of it ends up.
It's existing patients for us, but also, we have millions of people who are in our funnel who have not yet pulled the trigger. So we're also talking to them, and we're using this content as a way to be more relevant than we've ever been before for them right now, and that's working as well.
Right, versus a generic, you got to sign up now. You try this thing. Yeah, say something timely.
Exactly. Yep.
So Beth, a kind of 2-part question, also content related. So like, to the extent you do distribution sort of in the channels like Shutterfly, email and stuff, have the tactics changed? And secondly, on the paid UA side, has any of the pandemic stuff changed the way you're doing like creative production, creative testing, or is that sort of more the same? So yeah, it's like both basically paid and organic. How has content creation changed, if at all?
Well, one thing that's interesting about music, and and depending on what industries other folks are in, like live streaming is becoming really important. So there's no longer live music content. So people connect with their artists via Twitch streams. So that's been like, in terms of like a new channel or a new insight or a new way that we're connecting with listeners is probably through these live streaming events. I would say that's not a huge acquisition lever per se. It's just kind of adapting to fit kind of where the consumption is and supporting artists. It's not a huge growth lever for us, but you see that across kind of a lot of different industries where there's now speaker series and they're all online. Yeah. So I think that's an interesting consumption shift in terms of how people are consuming different music streams. So generally, I would say for the most part, music consumption, like we always curate things to existing users in terms of like, hey, there's a new track by your favorite artist. That really hasn't changed. More people are consuming playlists, lean back playlists more. So that's sort of interesting. But from a pure kind of growth perspective, I would say there's not like a real interesting insight in terms of marketing mix, other than we're in an area where we have a higher share of voice around all things, because there's just there's particularly at Amazon where Amazon's super busy. We don't necessarily want to promote things that are out of stock. So it's great for us because we're a digital service and we don't have inventory constraints. So I would say we've definitely been able to have a higher profile on a lot of our owned and operated channels. In terms of paid specifically, like, have we changed our creative strategy? I mean, we've leaned into free more as a message. We also have a lot more promotions happening now. So I would say it hasn't changed our fundamental go-to-market strategy, but we probably are leaning into certain messaging more than other messaging, because it's just an evergreen free message over like, hey, there's this offer that we have, or try this specific Amazon music service. So I would say we've changed the tone and tenor a little bit of some of our creative.
For the owned and operated, sorry, Katelyn, you don't, does your team have any ability to influence that, or is that kind of like a gift from the gods that you get the homepage placement for today sort of deal?
Yeah, no, owned and operated at Amazon is this, it drives like, it's an amazing reach. And we definitely, that's where, if anything has changed, and it's not really applicable to maybe folks watching this stream, but yes, it absolutely does, because we will get a lot more merchandising placements. So when you're on Amazon.com shopping, you are much more likely to see Amazon music. And so our team is testing it and showing the value of it quite regularly. So we can go back and say, hey, you know what, that was really successful. This, can we get more? Yeah, that's definitely like a work stream that's probably really specific to my team, but is applicable to other folks in different owned and operated environments. So this definitely, we are kind of in this unique phase where we can test things that we've never been able to have purview to even exposure to users on Amazon. So it's been great that way.
Yeah, maybe something unique to you, but it's still kind of interesting.
Yeah,
it's certainly a unique insight. Okay, Kayla, you were going to say something, please.
Yeah, I was just going to speak to, we actually just kind of tweaked our messaging across everything, given that there's never been a time really in recent history where we're all going through the same thing. So, if we're sending something out about domestic violence awareness month or something like that, then we're also even adding just one sentence about how, hey, we're all at home, so let's like distract you with a topic you might not know about, or something that at least nods to the acknowledgement that this isn't just like random and coming out of left field. We actually took one of our TV spots down because it was a concept around getting birth control from anywhere. And so we really just looked at everything across the board and just made sure that it was relevant. Even you'll see on our homepage, we work with Optimizely, and we ran a ton of A/B tests around homepage messaging, and we saw kind of pre-COVID, it was all about, control over your body, my rules. That was the messaging that was working better. And now it's all about expert care where you are, expert care from home. Seems kind of obvious, but it was just such a clear demarcation of like when shelter in place started happening, and that, that message change started working.
Cool. Okay. One thing I want to share, this is a very tactical note, and I think it's almost universally applicable because I've seen some of our clients do it, is doing a lot more live streaming, really in any context, some random agencies, direct to consumer products, whatever, primarily on Facebook Live, recording those sessions. You kind of have to record it in parallel, and then taking that content and pushing it back into paid or in emails or whatever. So a real example, a D2C brand we work with, the founder records herself, doing the makeup stuff like every couple of days, and that gets cut up into ads or sometimes just run straight up. And the thing's crushed, like even for new customer prospecting, retargeting, whatever. And like, I don't think they would have bothered to have their CEO, mess around with their stuff if like she wasn't just sitting in her house, but she's just sitting in her house. And so that's been a good one. Like, it's free, whoever's the person who knows the most about the product can just talk about it or the service or whatever. And that I've at least found that it actually can work quite well, and certainly organically. I mean, why not? But even on the paid side too. And you don't have all the production value and all this complexity that normally goes into these sort of things. Okay, cool. Well, we're coming up on half an hour. If anyone in the chat has another question, I'll grab another one. But I'll leave it to both of you, open-ended. This could be some sort of ask a generic question like, what should people do? What should they be thinking about? Anything that we didn't discuss, pandemic specific or not, that you would encourage people to think about, like, oh, maybe I'll give you a suggestion. Now's a good time to go revisit all of your CRM flows to make sure that the communications you're sending are relevant, because maybe they all need to be updated like you updated them to be, contextual for COVID. So like any generic directives for folks on the stream, and then we're done.
Yeah, that's a good tip. Like we made sure that our messaging doesn't say things like listen anywhere on the go, right? Because people aren't out. Like, so just scrubbing. We also don't do countdown messaging. We felt like, like 3 days left before the offer ends, 2 days, like this kind of scarcity. We felt that was off brand. So we definitely went through our assets and kind of did a scrub to make sure that there wasn't anything tone deaf. So, if you have any kind of reoccurring, like I'm getting some airlines like reoccurring trigger emails that someone forgot about that doesn't feel appropriate. So yeah, just make sure, go double check your email campaigns, make sure that there's nothing on an autopilot that doesn't make sense.
That's a good tip.
Kayla, I would say now is the time for your company to connect with your customers on a like superhuman level. So I love the live stream idea. I'm going to try that and I'll let you know how it goes. But,
great.
We did some other things where, and we've been just really connecting what our providers are saying to the patient. So we did the whole where you do the grid photo and push that out on social. We pushed it out in email, saying that our providers are here for you during this time. People loved it. and really just taking those quotes from our CEO. It's just really about that connection. And the more that you can do that and like talk about the people, I think the more that's going to resonate right now.
Okay, that's an awesome tip.
It's not different from what all the celebrities are doing, right? Sitting in their house, doing live streams and things like that. You can do that as a brand.
That's hopefully less annoying. All right, Derek, you take over. You're in charge.
Guys, amazing panel. Thank you so much. We are out of time, so we do need to